Imagine a world where a simple whisper from your neighbor could mean your death, where a strange glance or a failed harvest is not an accident, but proof that invisible forces are conspiring against the community. In Europe between the 15th and 17th centuries, fear was not merely an emotion. It was a silent law governing entire villages, paving the way for one of the darkest periods in human history, the witch hunts. On a cold morning in a small rural village, the daily routine does not begin with ordinary work, but with suspicion. Every gesture, every word, and every behavior outside the expected norm may be watched with unsettling attention. For the average citizen, the idea of living under constant suspicion is not paranoia, it is survival. The danger has no visible form, it lives within people. You would wake in a simple wooden house, surrounded by neighbors who know every detail of your life. An animal dies without explanation. A child falls ill. A storm destroys the crops. The explanation is not scientific, it is spiritual, and someone must be held responsible. Religious and civil authorities preach a severe warning. Evil is among us. The devil recruits followers, and these people, they say, appear ordinary. The dominant belief holds that certain individuals, often women, widows, healers, or socially isolated people, have made pacts with demonic forces. There is no need for physical evidence. Suspicion, fear, and rumor are enough. This is the prevailing logic of the time. The invisible is more real than the visible. If you were part of the community, you would quickly learn the signs of social danger. Showing unusual knowledge of herbs, living alone, or behaving differently could be interpreted as evidence of witchcraft. Even beauty, extreme poverty, or old age could become silent accusations. Trials follow their own logic. Confessions are extracted under intense pressure, as it is believed that the guilty will always reveal the truth if sufficiently tested. Physical and spiritual tests emerge as legitimate methods of proof. A suspicion may lead to public interrogations, where the accused faces hostile stares and impossible questions. Silence is seen as guilt. Defense is viewed as demonic resistance. If suspicion grows, the process becomes irreversible. Across entire communities, collective fear creates a suffocating atmosphere. Trust disappears. Families accuse neighbors. Children testify against adults. Paranoia spreads like a social disease. The most famous example of this phenomenon occurs in Salem, culminating in the trials known as the Salem witch trials. There, collective panic transforms fragile accusations into fatal convictions, demonstrating how fear can become a self-sustaining force. But these events are not isolated. Throughout Europe, religious and civil courts conduct similar investigations. Manuals are written teaching how to identify witches, describing physical signs, suspicious behaviors, and methods of interrogation. The witch hunt becomes an institutional system. Cities and villages live under a regime of constant surveillance. Religious leaders warn of invisible conspiracies against divine order. Collective suffering, famine, disease, war, finds a simple explanation: agents of evil infiltrating society. The result is a culture dominated by moral fear. The accusation of witchcraft is not merely a religious crime, but a threat to social order. Public punishment serves as spectacle and warning. Crowds observe executions believing they are witnessing the purification of the community. The smell of smoke, the silence of the crowd, the tension in the air, all reinforce the idea that evil has been defeated, even if fear remains. If persecution is a collective experience, its consequences are deeply human. Entire communities live under constant anxiety. Social relationships transform. Trust vanishes. Suspicion becomes the norm. The true driving force is not individual cruelty, but collective fear fueled by uncertainty. The lack of scientific knowledge about disease, climate, and psychology creates an explanatory void. This void is filled by supernatural beliefs that offer simple answers to complex problems. Thus emerges a cycle of social reinforcement. Fear produces accusations. Accusations produce punishment. Punishment reinforces fear. Yet judging these people merely as irrational would ignore the reality of their world. They lived in an era of constant insecurity, where wars, epidemics, and famine seemed like incomprehensible forces. Witch hunts emerged as a desperate attempt to control chaos. It was not merely superstition, it was a search for order. When we look back at this period of history, we should not see only ignorance or violence, but also the profound human desire to find explanations and protect the community in the face of the unknown. The history of witch hunts is not only about persecution, it is the story of a society struggling against its own fears, trying to make sense of an unpredictable world. It is a psychological and social battle in which security seemed to depend on identifying an invisible enemy. And in that world, justice was not defined by evidence, but by fear.